We're back. Yeah, I know, right? Gone for too long. Well, there were two meetings. One of them was the Public Works Committee. That was only 13 minutes. And then just the other day, the Rules and Public Policy Committee, which was only 7 minutes. And I watched the 13-minute one, which they're going to delay the ordinance for snow removal, snow plowing, and residential roads or roads in general until March. And then Josh Bain asked them why, and they said, "Oh, well, the new director needs to get his feet wet, needs to get comfortable on everything, and make sure that he's okay with it." And by the way, this new DPW director, he used to work at VS Engineering, and if you remember any of my videos talking about VS Engineering, they did basically the scouting plan for the Sherman Park development area, and they found that it was going to cost like $10 or $12 million before they can even put their first building in there to do any kind of building. And that's where the new IACS building was supposed to be. And then Shreve brought it up when he was running for mayor. And then Hogg says, like, actually, you know what? We're going to move it over here now because it was taking too long to even get a shovel in the ground. So that's actually what we're going to be talking about tonight in this Community Affairs Committee. If you had watched the video where I was giving you an update of what happened during the city council meeting, there was supposed to be a vote on the director for IACS, Kelly Diamond, I think. And when I had looked up her resume, I saw that she had like a lot of experience with animal stuff, and I thought this was going to be a solid fit. Turns out I was wrong because there are a lot of people that do not like her. And there was there's some crazy-eyed, blue-eyed chick that was there, and she spoke at it too. But this has kind of been the norm lately with what's been going on in Indianapolis. I think it was this morning, there was an article about here it is. There was an article on this woman, Lena Hill, as Deputy Mayor of Public Health and Safety. They're delaying her appointment. It's been a long time, too, since she's actually been in that position, but they're just delaying her appointment right here. Biggity bam. A lot of crazy stuff going on right now. In the Hogshead admission is basically a giant clusterfuck, and it will not help when people like Carlos Perkins want to bankrupt the city for their own little projects. Just remember, Democrats love to destroy. Republicans have been very soft and very pussy-ish as of late. Listen, GOP, I've been giving you so much low-hanging fruit, and you're not using any of it, which tells me you're part of the problem. You're actually in line with the Democrats, if I had to guess. But who knows, honestly. I just want some action instead of just sitting on trying to take the high road. But let's just get to the video.
I'm going to call to order tonight's meeting of the community.
Allie Brown with the nightmare fuel shirt, the sunglasses. I mean, just a giant lip shit, obviously. But this whole thing was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. We're not going to do all of that. We're only going to do the first hour because the next hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes is just a giant bitch fest of Kelly Diamond. So,
Community Affairs Committee.
Just to let you know.
We are going to hear from the public on proposal number 5 tonight. What I would like to encourage as we do our check-ins through our council, if you want to speak tonight, there is a sign-up sheet. Please sign up on that sign-up sheet, that is what our clerk will call through tonight for public comment, okay? And you can feel free to get up and do that while I'm speaking. So we're going to start off with introductions from the committee, starting in the front row.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Michael Hart, representing District 20.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Paul Anay, District 22.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Roberts, District 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron Gibson, District 8.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kristen Jones, District 18.
Thank you, Madam Chair. District 3, Washington, Lawrence Townships, and I appreciate the opportunity of sitting in this evening.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Keith Graves, Indianapolis, Council District 9 on the east side.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vapo Silly, District 12.
And I'm Allie Brown. I represent District 10. So tonight on the docket, we have proposal number 47 and 48, which are reappointments to the Indianapolis Community Food Access Advisory Commission. Neither of those appointees are here tonight. So with consent from the committee, we will push this off to next month. Thank you. So we're going to hear public comment on proposal number 5 tonight. I want to level set with the people in the audience so you know what happens tonight. So we have already heard this in our committee last month, and it has already been sent to the council floor. Because of how it, when the emails came in and people wanted to be heard, that's why we recalled it to pull it back to hear public comment. We cannot and will not be taking a vote on it tonight. The next vote will be March 3rd at the full council meeting. However, we very much wanted to hear you. So with that, what we're going to start off with is we're going to have Director Diamond give her presentation. The council will then ask questions, including our guest counselor, Counselor Boots, and then we will follow up with public comment. While this is happening, I ask everyone to be respectful. We're all here because we care, right? So we're going to be respectful, and we're going to have a good enough time tonight, okay?
We're just going to have a sweet and cute little time tonight. That's all. Hey, all of you people. And you know why she's saying that is because you have the Palestine people normally fucking up the city council meetings.
Director Diamond, if you would like to begin, whenever you're ready.
Man, that is a hell of a turnout, by the way. There are a lot of people that spoke.
Madam Chair.
Okay, so if any of you have ever been to a city county meeting or city council meeting, the podium is where you would sign up if you want to speak for public testimony. You don't always get a chance to speak because usually there's no option to speak. Larry Vaughn will be there. By the way, I miss Larry Vaughn in there. I'm hoping that I see him next month, maybe when things get warmer.
And members of the committee for the opportunity to speak with you again this evening. Tonight, I'd like to take a moment to touch on some of the concerns I know have been expressed and shared with you recently, and so I'm just going to jump right to it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there, not necessarily on purpose, and when we have that incorrect information and it is spread, it has detrimental effects on all within our walls, two-legged and four-legged alike. First, on February 8th, our shelter made a change to our open shelter hours for the public. Now we close a little later so that the hours are more convenient to the public, thereby increasing opportunities for animals to make it out of the shelter in a positive way. Our doors are now open 2 hours later, giving our staff more time in the morning to finish tasks before the public arrives. At the same time of this change, we also made another change, which was a separate change, and that is to adjust the hours that our volunteers can be at the shelter. Those were changed to 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. For safety and liability reasons, just as with any other organization or business, our volunteers can now only be on site when management is present. We value the positive contributions from our volunteers, and we also value their safety. And not only are we concerned about their safety when it comes to animals in our shelter, but also that of the public being able to access our building and our property and enter that building while they are there without management oversight. This is a previous practice that was never appropriate, and we also do not allow our staff to be in the building without managers, with the exception of our enforcement staff due to the nature of their job. And we are working to make changes to actually increase the number of managers on staff so that there are always at least 2 on staff to support our staff in the building. So again, this is why we also cannot have volunteers in the building by themselves as well. The need for this change and the support for this change is echoed and supported by the legal team. Office of Corporation Counsel has given their support for that. The common sentiment that we have all felt is that it was very important for IACS to become our own agency. Because of that, we felt that IACS would garner the attention that it is long needed and long deserved. And for years, IACS has been overshadowed by other agencies that it reports to, and with that, practices were created that should not have been. We are our own agency now and need to right some things as we seek that attention that we're hoping for to be taken more seriously and not forgotten. We understand that the shorter volunteer hours mean less time for volunteers to be with the animals, and this is a change that we did not make lightly, but again, it is for safety and liability reasons.
Who brings their kid to a city council meeting, all right? Just rude.
Prioritize safety. This is a change. This change to the policy is something that you see in shelters across the country, so it is not unique to us. There have been a couple of solutions that have been frequently floated about as a way to deal with this change and an alternate, both of which we heavily considered. One was to rotate our managers that we have on staff such that we can provide coverage later in the evening for the volunteers, and the other was to hire a manager to cover volunteers during those hours. Our current leadership staff is already working 10 to 12 hours a day in the shelter, going home to work even more and working on their days off. There's little to no work-life balance because of being frequently pulled to answer calls and texts when they should be disconnecting. We already can't get our jobs done, and we are already stretched so thin that too many hands in the pot trying to assist are increasing the opportunities for mistakes and issues that we incur. We simply cannot ask our staff to stay any later, especially with the need to be present when working with our actual staff that is there during the day and to perform our daily rounds and participate in meetings together. Regarding the recommendation to hire a manager to supervise volunteers, perhaps if we weren't in the situation where we don't even have some of the basic positions in our shelter, that might be a feasible opportunity. We are still without a veterinarian, which will not likely change until we can start offering a competitive wage for that veterinarian. Our new shelter can accommodate multiple veterinarians, so ideally we would have more than one. We believe that of greater importance than hiring someone to stay late is the need to add these basic positions, competitive pay, especially for the veterinarian position, and supplies for our shelter and our animals. These are the items that I plan to come back to committee to ask for your support on. As I mentioned,
We just need more money, that's all. What's the big deal?
the last committee meeting, BNS is still graciously handling our budgets, contracts, and payroll, and we are beginning our interviews for the CFO position. And once that part of the transition is complete, I look forward to being able to learn more about and being more involved in the budget going forward. In the meantime, as we have already shared with everyone, we do plan to revisit the volunteer hours once a new volunteer coordinator is hired. There have been a lot of questions about the number of vacancies that we have at IACS. This time last year, we had the same vacancy rate and with regards to positions of 22%, And as expected, we've had staffing changes in the last year, and we are excited about building our teams and will continue to do so. And as we continue to work on improving our policies, creating efficiencies, and a healthier workplace that will serve to also help fill those vacancies. Our current shelter opened around 1991.
Hey, smash or pass. Now I have to say it every time.
And was never built to house animals, only to hold them for a few days to allow owners to come and reclaim them, and if not, they were euthanized. Through the years, euthanasia has been a big part of the reality for our staff at IACS. The public, not so much, as many were unaware of the magnitude at which euthanasia occurred, let alone its effect on the employees and the organization as a whole. While it has changed some, it is still a difficult part of the everyday at IACS. I, too, didn't have much of an idea of the magnitude of what occurred at IACS prior to getting into animal welfare.
You know, that is actually really interesting. Because when I looked at her, Kelly Diamond, right? Am I right on that? Yeah. Because when I looked her up, I have a microphone right in front of me. This fucking sucks. Is this it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, see? All right. She was the director of clinic service at Indy Humane, owner-operator for Love, worked at Indy Humane, Indy Mega Adoption, Indian administrator of policy and planning for animal care. So, like, what do you mean you had no idea? You knew exactly what was going to. Maybe you didn't know like how bad it was, but like you know, kind of know what to expect, which is wild that she's saying this right now.
But I do recall every once in a while seeing a news clip or photo of a conveyor belt of animals. But for those inside the walls, it wasn't so unfamiliar. On February 5th, 2024, myself and Billy Bowling started in our new roles at IACS with little to no transition or training. We just had to figure a lot of things out along the way, and we're still doing that, which in and of itself.
You were in it, though. You were actually working there before you became director for like a year. So how did you not know?
Is often an insurmountable.
See, this is where I'm like pissed off at myself a little bit because like if you have, say that you're a mechanic, right? And you have worked out 5 to 8 shops, and then you say, "Boy, I don't even know that this is how the shop was. I had no idea." And then you've been in it for 10 plus years, right? And then you go into this last shop where you're going to be a foreman. You're like, "I didn't know this is how shop stuff really works." They're the same example. Like, really? What are you talking about? And then you worked at the shop for a year before you became shop foreman. So it was like, you really have a pretty good idea of the inner workings of it. It just blows my fucking mind. There's zero accountability on her part.
Mountable task. We were handed the helm of a ship that had been slowly sinking for years and expected to fix it overnight.
Which is crazy because I know a lot of animal care people that have always praised Indianapolis. People, maybe, outside, people that have lived outside of Indy, but they've always told me, like, hey, Indy's awesome. All right. When it comes to animal control, when it comes to animal caring. So it's kind of weird that she's saying all this right now, that it was a sinking ship. And I'm not sure because of after COVID.
We set out to build our leadership team, to learn, to create better teams throughout the shelter, and to help IACS to be and do better. By that point, our shelter was covered with dogs living in crates everywhere. This was not fair to the animals. It was difficult for our staff to clean. It was stressful for everyone. It was extremely noisy. Disease prevention was almost impossible, and there were just too many animals to care for. This took its toll on our staff. It was not uncommon for our animal control officers to be sitting outside in their trucks filled with animals, waiting for an hour or more for the staff inside the building to figure out what to do with those animals, where to put them, or who to euthanize to make room for them. It was a daily struggle, and still is a daily struggle, to figure out where to put animals coming in and those that are waiting outside at our doors. And quite often, that's all we get done in a day. There are 3 positive ways to leave our shelter. That's through adoption, to be reclaimed by your owner, or to be pulled by a rescue or shelter. Nationwide adoptions have been down and are a struggle. And as a community and a shelter, we're not doing all that we can to increase the return to owner numbers. And while we greatly appreciate the assistance from our shelters and rescues to pull animals, we know that they must make their own decisions about what they can handle, and we do not expect them to and understand when they cannot. But overall, this wasn't okay, and we had to make a choice. We could keep adding crates, but we knew that wasn't feasible. Or we could do a mass euthanasia. We estimated to get to a level of sustainability that our shelter would have to do a shelter kill of 100 to 150 dogs in one single day in order to do that. And with the number of animals coming in daily, we would then have to continue doing that just to keep our heads above water and stay afloat. And those would be numbers that we know that most of the public would not be comfortable with knowing. We didn't want to return to the cycle of intake animals euthanized, and expect to be able to function each day. And despite what has been said, we didn't sign up to do this. There isn't a single staff member at IACS that accepted the role to become friends with, care for, and then euthanize animals.
That's for sure.
If we are the dog killers, the murderers, or the people that don't care about animals that unfortunately we have been labeled, a mass shelter kill would have been the easy fix and the route for us to take, but we did not. We recognize that IACS has tried in many ways over the years while struggling against so many odds and lack of resources to do more. To not just be the shelter no animal or person wants to visit, but that has been a difficult goal to achieve. We instead made a choice to focus on our staff. We made a promise to our staff, no more crates. And achieving this became possible first by managers spending a 25-plus hour day taking our dogs to a successful offsite adoption event. And while at that event, our staff back at the shelter began tearing down the crates that would not be set up again. Our hallways and rooms started to clear. Days before that event, we also announced our population management plan. In order to provide more humane care for the animals in our shelter, to care for our staff's well-being, and to increase our ability to help more animals, we would work towards not continuing to warehouse animals that we couldn't care for and just have to euthanize or watch them deteriorate. Over 100% capacity had become the norm at IACS, and constantly living in fear of a large impound that would mean staff having to euthanize their friends to make room for more animals was daily torture for all of us. We couldn't keep that up. We needed to have wiggle room, so we needed some empty kennels. We needed to not overwhelm ourselves in the shelter. We decided to continue our managed intake system for any animal through appointments and working to only bring in sick, injured, and aggressive animals from the field. As we have created some breathing room for us all by doing this, each division within our shelter has been working on improving their processes, procedures, and programs to even further a positive impact. After operating so long at just trying to get through the day, we are finding ourselves with some time to think, to plan, and to work on improvements. We decided we wanted to be a part of addressing the root causes for why so many animals are in our shelter so that in the long run we can reduce those that need to come in. We don't want to return to, but instead put an end to, the past IACS cycle of intake, kill, intake, kill, intake, kill. We could not keep doing that, and be expected to keep going and be okay. If animals come in, they need a way out, and as much as possible, we want that to be a positive way out and not death, but we know that's not always possible. We no longer wanted to just be the place where animals go to hopefully make it out alive, where they enter our doors and everyone else outside our walls felt good about what they didn't know and what they didn't have to do because we had to do it. We wanted to be a place where the staff could start feeling better about what they do. Otherwise, who will work there if euthanasia continues to be the norm? We wanted to start helping the community to be a part of the solution. I'd like to point out that it was the offsite adoption event, not the emergency intake policy, that started clearing the crates. That policy had only been in place a few days before and no time to make an effect. In the following weeks, we had two more offsite adoption events. And as the crates decreased, the impact on staff was evident. While we know we cannot indefinitely continue with reduced intake numbers as much as we have, we believe that it has been important to give our staff some time to breathe and have the chance to become a part of some important possibilities. Our intake team is better able to actually spend time getting information on the animals coming in our doors so that we can help make better pathway decisions. Our medical team has been working hard to get to the point that they can actually complete intake exams when the animals come in the door instead of days or even weeks later. Our kennel staff has been working on their processes such that they are getting done with cleaning hours earlier than before and able to spend time with the animals and get them out a second time. And they are also finding time to do much needed deep cleaning. Overall, our staff is finding more time and getting in the habit of actually entering notes on animals in our system to assist with their pathway outcomes. And those are just some of the examples of what we've been able to do with some breathing room so that we can be in a better situation going forward. Those are also the ways in which we can help move animals out the door quicker, thereby meaning we can get more animals in and help more animals in the long run. Where we are at today is different than where we were at 2 months ago, 6 months ago, and a year ago when we started in our roles. And it is definitely different from where we were at before. Photos and stories of some conditions or issues from months ago are not necessarily indicative of today. But we do still have problems. We do still have issues, and we do still have things we need to work on. We know there's a lot to be done at IACS, and we also know that it will take time. It's frustrating for us as well, but we are committed to continuing to move forward and make progress. We've made mistakes, and we will continue to make mistakes. In the past year, the staff has made some strides that they should be proud of and feel good about, if only given the chance. Their hard work and progress should not be diminished, nor should their excitement for the future. No decisions at IACS are made solely just by me. Our leadership team, some of which are here tonight, we make them together. Tonight, these individuals, some of them, wanted to come and express an interest in sharing with you this evening in hopes that you can hear their truth from their mouths and not just from mine. Billy.
Good evening, Council. My name is Billy Bowling. I'm Administrator of Operations. I've been with Indianapolis Animal Care Services now almost 18 years. As she said, we started back in February in our positions with no guidance, nothing. More than an admin, I was a kennel staff member, looking at the staff, beaten down, being there till 9 o'clock every night, turning around, coming back in at 7 and doing it all over again. Walking 50 dogs out of crates before you even start on the kennels. While walking dogs, you have dogs busting out of the crates, attacking them, attacking the dogs that they're walking. Our screening staff having to deal with 8 kennels inside their room where dogs are literally barking while they're trying to hold dogs to vaccinate, microchip, draw blood, whatever exam they're trying to do on a dog with all these animals in there barking. Our adoption staff trying to do adoptions when dogs are barking around, trying to communicate with people. That was our norm. My supervisor's office, who answer phone calls from the public constantly, are dealing with 5 dogs in their office barking. This became normal, and it's not normal. This was an everyday battle for us for a very long time. The morale over the last few months has been a lot better. People actually are smiling and enjoying themselves for the most part. They're getting to do what people get into the animal welfare career to do, and that's spend time with the animals. Actually instead of just running them outside for 15 minutes and then running them back in and never getting to pet them, love them, do anything. You're seeing a lot of videos from our staff that is actually helping a lot of our animals get adopted because they have time. And that's the biggest thing, time. Obviously, one of the biggest struggles we have in our shelter is animals losing their minds. They spend a good portion, 23 plus hours a day in the kennel. Around 50, 60 other dogs that are barking around you. With no form of enrichment they were ever being given back in the day, we are starting to move in where they're getting daily enrichment, which is highly important for that animal. And for the staff, right? That's what you're here for. It's not just to walk a dog, walk another dog, go home. You're here because you care about these animals and you want to spend time with these animals and you want good outcomes for these animals. So being able to do enrichment has been, dare I say, life-changing for our staff. It's no secret that animal welfare has one of the highest suicide rates in the world, right? It's no secret. But we're trying to change that stigma. Go home. You're here because you care about these animals and you want to spend time with these animals and you want good outcomes for these animals. So being able to do enrichment has been, dare I say, life-changing for our staff. It's no secret that animal welfare has one of the highest suicide rates in the world, right? It's no secret. But we're trying to change that stigma. When we talk about field operations, it is obviously when I first took over, like I said, I was kennel staff. Field was, I won't say abandoned, but it didn't have my full attention. It does now, and it has for the last few months. And we are working now to become more community-based approach rather than punitive. Go out and help people. We should be who people are contacting for help with their animals as much as it is for someone to contact us because someone's neglecting their animals. We need funds and we need resources to give these people so they can, keep their animals in their home. They love their animals. They just can't afford it. When it comes to getting your animal fixed, for us, it's almost $200 to get one dog fixed. People making minimum wage can't afford that. They're barely scraping by to get food. We should be able to supply those resources to our community. One of the other things that we started doing over the last few months is microchipping in the field. The ACOs are being supplied with microchips. They are helping. If you go out and we make contact with somebody and they're wanting their animal microchipped, we are microchipping in the field. The ACOs are also providing IndyCare's medical vouchers to people in the public to get medical help rather than turning over their pet. We want to keep the pet with you. The shelter is no place for your pet. If you love your pet, let's keep it with you. The one thing that we want to move towards is getting where we can provide dog houses, we can provide kennels, we can provide all those things. So what I started implementing was KPIs, which are key performance indicators, to track how things are going in the field and some of the things that we're tracking right now and giving the ACOs goals to reach. So microchipping in the field, how many can we do this year? Because that's important, right? We scan the animal, we can bring him home. He doesn't have to come to the shelter. Someone finds him, takes him to the clinic, we can take him home. He doesn't have to come to the shelter. When that happens, we have more room to bring animals in that need to come into the shelter. Diversions. What resources do you need for you to keep your dog at home? Is that a dog house? Is that a kennel? Is that this? Is that straw? Is it medical attention? Is it vaccinations? Are you trying to get your animal fixed so your other animal doesn't get pregnant? What do you need from us to keep that animal in your home? Save rate, which is the intake rate minus the non-live outcome divided by the live intake rate. Obviously, we're aiming for 90% to become a no-kill shelter. As of right now, we are at 93.6%. And then number of education calls versus follow-up complaints. And the reason why we want to look at how often are we being called to runs where there are no violations? How do we address that? How often are we going out and there are violations? The main purpose of my vision for ACS, the main purpose is to be an asset to the community. How can we help you keep your animal at home? Over the last couple of weeks, and specifically yesterday, I had an ACO go out on a run, and the complainant decided to remove someone's animals from the back of their house. Obviously, the dogs are now in a car. They're not in violation. And we've also have a person that's committed theft. It makes it really hard for us to do our jobs when we're getting involved in things that we shouldn't. It's dangerous for you. It's dangerous for those animals. What if you go back there and those animals are aggressive? What if the owner comes out and sees you touching their dogs? I understand that there's a lot of mistrust, and we will build that back. That there's no doubt in my mind we will build that back. But have a little trust.
Hey, we know that we betrayed your trust and all, but trust us, we'll build it back. No big deal. Hey, we know we fucked up and really dropped the ball on this thing, but trust us, we'll build it back. Build back better. Where have we heard that before?
Thank you.
Even Allie Brown's giving shut the fuck up. Microphone. Microphone.
Oh.
There we go.
When I stepped into this role in March 2024, alongside a newly forming leadership team, it felt like we were being handed a sinking ship. Animals were living in wire crates, disease was spreading rapidly, staff morale was at an all-time low, and everyone was desperate for change. After months of trying to find our footing, we implemented a population management plan focused on reducing overcapacity. We knew this plan might raise concerns, as it could seem like the goal was simply to reduce shelter intake. However, our mission was, and still is, the opposite. A municipal shelter should never be a long-term solution for any animal, but rather a temporary stop on their journey. By prioritizing quality care, disease prevention, and stronger outcome programs, we can help more animals move through the system efficiently. Additionally, we are focusing on diversion efforts, both in the shelter and in the field, to help keep pets in their homes whenever possible and prevent unnecessary shelter intakes. Throughout my career, I've faced many challenges, but nothing compares to the complexities of animal welfare. As leaders, we must see each animal as an individual while also advocating for the larger population. We make life and death decisions for animals that we know and love, weighing their quality of life, staff safety, and community well-being. There are no easy answers, no clear right or wrong, no black or white. Shelter life is a constant state of triage, focusing our energy where it will have the greatest immediate impact. One of the most visible areas needing improvement is our shelter data. Over the past year, we uncovered significant flaws in how data has been recorded. Our shelter management software, while robust, is not user-friendly, and system modifications combined with data entry inconsistencies have resulted in unreliable information. For example, no-cost euthanasia services for the public were recorded as if the animals were in our care, and neonatal kittens who passed away remained listed as being in foster care. These discrepancies skewed our live release rate, the number of animals in our care, and our average length of stay.
Did you hear that? Like if the kittens that die, it shows that they're in adoption, right? Is that what you said?
Is not user-friendly, and system modifications combined with data entry inconsistencies have resulted in unreliable information. For example, no-cost euthanasia services for the public were recorded as if the animals were in our care, and neonatal kittens who passed away remained listed as being in foster care.
That's crazy.
These discrepancies skewed our live release rate, the number of animals in our care, and our average length of stay. While repairing past data is unrealistic, we are focused on improving accuracy moving forward. I mention this to emphasize why everyone should approach data, especially projections and correlations from outside sources, with an open mind, as it can easily misrepresent our operations and challenges. You will hear from individuals tonight who wish to highlight areas where progress has been slow or not aligned with their expectations. To this, I offer one remark. We are painfully aware of how much work remains. Progress has been slow but steady, and when I feel overwhelmed by the criticism, I think back to where we were a year ago, surrounded by barking dogs and inhumane housing, and remember how far we've come. Since implementing our population management plan, animals are no longer living in crates. We have improved our ability to prevent and manage disease. Our live release rate has steadily increased, reaching 95% for cats and dogs in December. A new daily rounds process ensures that every animal in our care is seen by members of the rounds team each day. In daily afternoon meetings, we review and address concerns. We have developed a new at-risk protocol that, while still evolving, provides more structured guidance for pathway planning to support our most vulnerable animals. The Indy Cares program has been reestablished, allowing us to achieve more diversions than ever before. Animal control officers are providing greater assistance in the field, reducing the likelihood of animals even entering IACS. We have committed to better visibility of at-risk animals needing urgent placement, resulting in a decrease of rescue animals who do not make it out alive. And our employee vacancy rates have consistently improved each month. This is just a broad overview of the progress made. I am incredibly grateful to Kelly Diamond for the unwavering support she has shown every one of us as we work together to make IACS a better place. She has made the tough decisions that had been avoided for far too long, facing criticism from those who don't fully understand the challenges of a municipal shelter. She has prioritized her staff's mental well-being over the demands of those who insist we take in every animal while simultaneously condemning us for every euthanasia. There are those who misunderstand our role, and others who would rather see Indy's overpopulation crisis quietly managed through euthanasia. But Kelly has chosen transparency, accountability, and the hard work of real change, and for that, I deeply respect and appreciate her leadership. I hope our words tonight provide a deeper understanding of the challenges we navigate and the progress we've made. I stand alongside Kelly Diamond and my colleagues because I believe in the direction we're heading. Change is never easy, but by working together with compassion and commitment, we can create a better future for the animals in our care and the community we serve. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Bree Joyce. I'm the Indy Cares coordinator at Indianapolis Animal Care Services, and I've worked at the shelter for nearly 4 years. I currently serve as both the head of our diversion program and the supervisor of our intake department. This means that my job is often meeting people at one of the worst days of their life and trying to figure out what I can do to help them when they feel they have nowhere else to turn. Our shelter is an open intake shelter which currently operates under a managed intake system. This means that we must accept any animal that has been brought to us by a resident of Marion County. We cannot pick and choose based on breed, temperament, or health. However, local ordinance does allow us to implement intake appointments, but there are always sick, injured, or aggressive animals that must come in without a scheduled appointment. Since I took over as the Indy Cares coordinator, we have begun providing supplies to people who have found stray animals while they wait for an appointment at our facility. We have offered assistance with supplies like food and cat litter to owners who have provided and have provided financial assistance with veterinary care and euthanasias for age and medical concerns. We do everything we can to help pets stay with their owners or find their way back home. When an animal does have to enter the shelter, staff must ask a series of questions to the resident surrendering that animal. After intake, that animal receives an exam and vaccinations, and after their exams are finished, they are then transferred into the kennel. The effect of unmanaged intake is a cascade effect that is felt across all departments within our shelter. If we spend less time getting information about each animal, it will be more difficult to determine their exit pathway immediately, increasing their length of stay. If we spend less time examining each animal, it could lead to medical and behavior issues getting missed and increased stress during that exam. As more and more animals enter our exam room, there is strong pressure on management to make space in an already full kennel, meaning frequent euthanasia. As we work to improve each of these steps through staff training, clear protocols, and growth of our diversion program, we reduce our length of stay, and our shelter will better serve our community. Kelly is leading the charge in this effort. But here's the reality. If we eliminated the managed intake process and significantly increased the number of animals coming into our shelter, we would also have to increase the number of animals exiting our shelter, one way or another. Our options are these: adoption, foster, and rescue. There are limited barriers to adoption, and it is not enough. Our foster program has been reignited, and our rescue program feels more effective than ever before, but it is still not enough. There is really only one other alternative: euthanasia. This is the most difficult option for our staff, volunteers, and the general public to face. Before Kelly became our deputy director, animals were being euthanized behind closed doors. Now, as often as possible, dogs are being given deadlines, and we give the community a chance to save them. If we just euthanize them behind closed doors, you'd never know they were at risk. You'd never know if they had lived and died, and you'd never know that you had a reason to be angry. I see this transparency as a win for these dogs, a chance to avoid death. Managed intake has allowed us to stabilize our occupancy of dogs and cats in the shelter. If we open the floodgates, management must start making difficult decisions daily about euthanizing for space. There is no alternative. For over a year, our shelter was operating well beyond maximum capacity. Dogs were being held in crates in every hallway, every room, and every office. Kelly made the decision to ditch the crates, and it was absolutely the right call. The effect was felt immediately, like a collective sigh of relief from the entire staff. The passion in this room is strong. Among my friends, my coworkers, the volunteers who I have worked side by side with for years, nobody loves these dogs more than us, and most days we are the only ones who love them. We need the residents in our community to step up. This is a nationwide issue and not one exclusive to Indianapolis. We need stricter spay and neuter laws. We need to eliminate breed restrictions and secure affordable, pet-friendly housing for vulnerable populations in our community. We need to work together to save these animals, and being divided like this is not the right answer. And I don't pretend to have the right answers, and I don't think Kelly does either. There are no perfect solutions in a place where literal lives hang in the balance. What I do know is that we needed to try something new. Kelly has helped us achieve that. She has helped us achieve change. I'm not saying that I agree with every decision she has made, and there is a lot more work to do, but we are strong, we are capable, and we are in this fight together. I support the appointment of Kelly Diamond as Director of Indianapolis Animal Care Services. Thank you.
So one of the things that people don't talk about enough, which they do end up talking, I listened to the entire public, well, most of the public testimony, and a few people brought up about how they're lowering the restriction for people to adopt animals. And if you remember the whole Zech Thomsen thing, like, what was it, like 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, in Indianapolis, the guy adopted a pit bull, but then it wouldn't stop barking. And yeah, what is Zech Thomsen? That's what it was. He hanged and stabbed the dog to death. And then I think it was like within a few months later, he was arrested for murder. Yeah. And so one of the people brought up, even Diamond brought it up, like I think a month or so ago when they were going to approve her appointment, was how she was going to restrict or reduce the barriers to adopting an animal. And I said it at the time. I was like, "That's fucked up. You don't want another Zech Thomsen deal, where someone adopts a dog and then stabs it to death or eats it, like some of our third worlders are doing." So people brought it up during public testimony. I was like, all right, I wasn't the only one that noticed that. It's like, just use my case. And I was like, yeah, why not just use my case? But I'm going to bring up 2 or 3 of the public testimonies. They were only 2 minutes long, but after this is up. Because people are going to speak, and then the counselors are going to ask questions. You gonna do this, or?
Thank you, counselors, for hearing everyone tonight. My name is Kaylin Helson, and I'm the manager of enforcement operations at ACS, where I've worked in the enforcement department for 6 years. Tonight, you may hear things about our enforcement statistics, mostly involving our response times and the numbers of citations issued. I'm here to provide some context for those things. It was noted that we had a 5-day response time to a Priority 1 run in December. I'd like to start by saying that 5 days is definitely longer than I want. I do not want to give any impression that I am proud of that number, but I will not stand idly by while someone implies that my team is not trying, caring, or putting in the work. Response times are not inherently reflective of the work that is going on there. There are obvious factors like temperature and holidays that I don't want to spend too much time discussing, but there's also the fact that the ACOs have, for as long as I have been with the department, had taken shifted holidays. So if they were not scheduled to work the city holiday, they got another day off. Because of this, we had 14 days with lower than usual staffing directly due to holidays, despite there only being 6 scheduled city holidays. I believe that reevaluating and trying new things is an essential part of leadership. It's a lot of what you're hearing about tonight. And I have therefore started looking into the process of changing that system to remove some of the staffing burden from my team and from the city that we serve. Another thing I'd like to address is the human aspect of things and what my officers go through. My ACOs face huge trauma every day. Every single time that they step out of their truck, they know that they are at risk from animals and from people. If you've heard of the child homicide that happened right before Christmas, where a child was basically abused to death, please know that 2 of my ACOs were in that house. They were in there while the body was also in there. Alongside that, obviously we see animals in atrocious conditions, fortunately not daily, but more often than any of us would like. This also sometimes affects response times because people need time to decompress from these issues. Sometimes it's only just a few minutes calming down in their truck after. Some people are needing more time off from that. Another factor I'd want to touch on regarding our response times is our staffing. I'm very excited about where our staffing is headed. We have just brought on a new enforcement supervisor this week. We have released 3 new ACOs to full duty in the past 4 months, and we have 4 trainees that are extremely promising. However, I had 2 new ACOs start this week, and we had to have multiple conversations about this meeting we are in currently because of the amount of media attention surrounding it. We've seen on Facebook and social media ACOs getting personally called out regarding intake decisions that their supervisors have been the ones making. We are working towards a better culture in our shelter, and it is honestly quite frustrating to be dealing with so much negative media attention online. With every threat that the ACOs willingly deal with, we should not also have to deal with attacks on ourselves and our organization this frequently. It is not attention that is helping us find and retain good new staff members. I'd also like to note that in January of this year, our average response time was down to 3 days from 6 in December. ACS has been moving towards a more community-based policing approach for years, which is reflected in the number of yearly citations steadily decreasing. Citation numbers are something that already greatly fluctuate, and viewing or presenting lower numbers as a negative is just not an appropriate interpretation of that metric. I've repeatedly heard from outside of ACS that people feel we should be strengthening our enforcement, but we are. Billy has been pushing us to be a better resource for years as enforcement manager, and I am happy to take on that mantle, especially with his continued support in his role. Better or stronger enforcement is not measured in the number of citations issued. It is measured in the amount of improvement we see in the welfare of the animals and the people of this city. I'm committed to building community and building up our community. And that is achieved by forging a team which is committed to treating everyone they encounter with respect, kindness, and dignity, with acknowledging that we have to allow people to fail without thinking that they are failures, with providing education and resources instead of judgment and fines. And to bring this full circle, strengthening that relationship we build with the community may impact response times, because doing the job right does not always mean doing it quickly. And I would rather have my team focused on communicating with the public and taking the time to help them than ever thinking about those statistics. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Council, for hearing us today. I'm Carol Schumacher. I'm the Adoptions Team Lead. I've been with IACS since mid-August to present. When I joined the team, there was only one adoption counselor and then myself, so we were both rather new to what was going on with everything.
So basically what they're doing is they're bringing all these people that are pro Kelly Diamond to talk her up and be like, it's not all her fault. It's just a giant clusterfuck. But please bring in Kelly Diamond.
As of yesterday, we now fully have a staffed team in the adoptions, which is really awesome, and that's something that we are working towards, getting everyone on the same page, getting everyone trained so we can work unanimously as a whole, not only with adoptions, but with the entirety of the staff. My goal as the adoption team lead is to foster an understanding and accepting environment. This is not only goes for the team and staff throughout the ICS, but includes the individuals coming in as well. Our goals are to focus and tailor adoptions to fit families' lifestyles and find animals that check all of their boxes when they come in. We have a strong suit in our team of various aspects, such as animal knowledge, life skills, and leadership. The compassion and dedication to take on a position most wouldn't take on speaks volumes. We laugh together, we cry together, we hold each other up through the hard times and the less than ideal times. I've been working on bringing the follow-ups of adoptions back. What these follow-ups are ways for us to reach back out to the animals that have been adopted into homes, see how they're doing, have the positive updates. That's something that always brings a smile to staff's faces, is to see the hard work that they put in while at the shelter to then see that pay off in the home. During those follow-ups, we are also utilizing any of the information that they're giving to us, passing back out resources, trying to do everything that we can to keep those animals in home, as well as keep the family safe and the animals safe. Resources that we do provide are our home scholarship, low-cost veterinary services, and these are ones that extend out throughout the adoption process that are not just in the moment of the adoption, they're in the building. These opportunities keep animals in home, evaluate what is best for the household and for the animal welfare overall. The more that we see, the more that we are going to continue to use that information to build everyone up. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon, Council. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Hicks, and I am currently the kennel manager here at IACS. I have had the distinct pleasure of working here since November 2013, and in many years here, I have taken on several different roles. I've seen both myself and the shelter grow together over time. Today, I would like to share some of my observations from the various primary roles that I've held here. Up until recently, I spent a significant part of my tenure at IACS as an animal control officer. This role allowed me to experience firsthand what it means to be a civil officer in our city and what it means to serve our community. As an ACO, I learned that there is a major difference between willful and unwillful neglect, and I learned the power of education. Our department has transitioned to a more
So they got a bunch of talking points, basically. They got a whole speech that was written up for them.
Community-based policing
Probably from
approach,
ChatGPT,
shifting our
from
focus
AI.
from catching people doing things wrong to understanding what they need to do things right, building relationships with the community, fostering rapport, and leaving positive impressions have helped us stay in a state of prevention rather than reaction. Our buildings, trucks, and uniforms say animal clearly on the side, but ACS is not just here for the animals. We're here to take care of the people in the community who care for them. It isn't the animals that come and ask us for help, it's the people. In the middle of last year, I transitioned from animal control officer to my current role as kennel manager. At that time, we were in the midst of what we called our crate crisis, and I could speak for hours about what it was like during that period. Simply put, physically present, emotionally exhausted. Getting out of the crate situation required drastically changing our intake policies, reprioritizing our runs on the road for officers, focusing on rescues and adoption events. Each room we cleared of crates was a victory to be celebrated, and clearing them all without resorting to mass euthanasia is a miracle. Since then, I've seen morale slowly improve. Staff is working extra hours. Instead of being forced to work extra hours, they're doing so in multiple departments to help out. We have moved from relying heavily on outside help to becoming a more sustainable day-to-day operation with our current roster. Our staff has also shifted focus from just basic husbandry of the animals in our care to providing enrichment activities, caring for their emotional and psychological needs as well. For me, the experiences in these roles, among all the others that I've had here at the shelter over the years, have taught me that growth comes from challenges and progress is achieved through collaboration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director and staff. Counselors, questions that you have? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, nope, sorry. Leader Hart?
I'll kick this off. I took some time before this meeting to talk to some volunteers and get a handful of questions. Some of these things were answered, so I don't want to be too redundant, but I'll at least kind of breeze over them in a sense, not breeze, but at least reiterate some of the answers that I have. A lot of the items were touched on. A lot of the concern was wait time, response time, and things of that nature. Particularly, looking at the field response time, going from 5 days, which was discussed, down to 3, a lot of the follow-up questions that I had to some of these points were, what are you going to do to improve it, right? That's really the theme for the basis of many of these things here. From what I heard on at least the field services, it was reduce and organize holiday times and increase staff. And if there's more things, then we can get into that later, but at least that's what I heard as it pertains to, how do we reduce that time of waiting for somebody in the field to get out to a home and do that check on the animal. The other two are similar, and I think, Kelly, I'll address you for all of these as this rolls up to you. And it has to do with the average wait time on strays, average wait times on time to surrender. I've got a statistic of 5 weeks on strays and a statistic on 2 months for a wait on surrenders. Whether that's, I don't know if that's correct. Can you confirm if that's?
Yeah, sounds like that's about correct. 4 weeks on strays.
Okay.
And the other.
So with the question of that being, we frequently see leaders come through here, and it's, we see a lot of the issues, and we've heard a lot of, what the concerns are. It sounds like you've been handed, and before we can get into the question, you've all mentioned it. You've been handed a sinking ship, is the way I think it was phrased multiple times, as what I wrote down that your theme is, right? Which I recognize that you don't have an easy job. It's a very difficult job. But I also need to recognize that it has been this administration that has put you in this position.
Oh.
So whether it was you or your predecessor, we're here now. So I do want that to be recognized. Now on the point of the wait time, we always hear the issues. What we like to hear, what I like to hear is, how are you going to address those issues and how are you going to improve them?
So a lot of that has to do with how I mentioned that we now have this breathing room where we can start thinking about things, where we can start looking at what is working in other shelters across the country. And so improving our diversion, and a lot of that, if we can provide diversion, if we can provide more assistance and we have the time to talk to people, whether in the field or out the door, as opposed to they want an appointment, or they just want us to take an animal in and we're not able to take that time. It's being able to work on all of those things, working on providing resources to keep animals in the home, whether they're adopted from us or just an animal is owned by a person they want to surrender. Helping owners, we're working on a better system, a new technology to actually catalog and provide case management work for our IndyCares and intake diversion team. But then also looking at software to help us and a new process to help us help the public, instead of surrendering their animals, rehome their animals themselves. Working on a lot of the things that Billy and, excuse me, Officer Helson mentioned in the field to help people keep animals in their homes. But then also working on things that we can do to help those who do find stray animals. A lot of people we get at the door, they actually want to keep the animal, or they, if it doesn't get adopted, they're interested in adopting it. So helping them in those ways, but then also helping the public understand better what to do when they do find stray animals. It's a difficult position, we know. We don't like the long wait as well, and it's a difficult struggle for us to kind of navigate reducing those wait times with the alternative as well. So there's a lot of programs out there that we're working on and things that we don't know a lot about yet that we're hoping to use to help us focus on keeping the animals out of the shelter that don't need to be there and hopefully reduce those times as well.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, please.
So I just want to state an observation that I have, right? And I'm not familiar with the crate program, but I think I'm a little understanding of what the situation was. There was crates set up within the facility to hold animals because there wasn't enough kennels.
Correct.
Okay. The crates being smaller, more inhumane, a worse experience for the animal in the long run. Mm-hmm. Your decision was to remove that. What that led to is increased wait times, essentially, because now you cannot bring these animals in. They're staying out in the field. With that observation, the other one that I have is staff shortages. I would imagine you, like the rest of the city, have that issue, and it's not to say that you guys aren't working hard. It sounds like everybody's putting in more than 8 hours a day, right, from what I'm understanding, and Billy's testimony was evident of that. But what I see when I see all these people, and what I've heard in emails, is there is a massive volunteer pool available to help you. And what I observe in this situation...
Give me a break. Give me a break. Get out of here.
And when I look for the how, what I would encourage you to consider is, how do you create a policy within your organization to utilize all these folks that are in this room to help support? Because we'll never hire enough people. And I can pick any department that we have. We'll never hire enough people. But you have something unique that others don't, and they're all sitting right here. And so those are my observations. That is my request of you. And with that, Madam Chair, I rest my time.
Thank you. Councilor Ney.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll keep my questions, comments brief. I know we have a lot of folks that would like to have their voices heard, which is why we are here this evening. Ms. Diamond, I first and foremost want to thank you for the chance to meet with you in person, get to know you better, and ask some of these questions. About a week and a half ago, I wanted to just bring a couple things that you and I discussed and just advocate them for them in this venue. As Leader Hart noted, Animal Care Services is really one of the more unique agencies in the city of Indianapolis because it is so public-facing. That is not always true of all of our agencies and departments, but it's particularly true of Animal Care Services. And so with it being a public-facing agency and with so many people very passionate, as you can see, of the animal welfare cause, it has a tremendous opportunity to add vigor and enthusiasm to the work that you folks do. And I'm sorry that it's been a sinking ship. I don't know that I've heard it characterized that way before. I think understood some issues, but it's a real shame. But I hope we can tap into the volunteer base in a way that makes sense for your agency, but also makes sense for the animals. I think about volunteers for animal care services like I think of reserve officers for our police department. Without our reserve officers on the police department, we'd have a very difficult time hosting events and doing the things that our department does in such a short-staffed way. So my questions and comments are this. One of the things that I heard from some folks specifically about not being heard is a policy that had been adopted, and you and I talked about this at the Animal Care Services Board. And the policy is that if you want to speak on behalf of an item at that board meeting, you need to submit the question or the comment about a week prior to the meeting in order to be heard. And I told you my concerns about that. We here at the council don't have the luxury, and that's code, but anybody who comes to our meetings under public hearing, public testimony, gets 2 minutes to speak.
If public testimony is allowed,
Has to be germane to the topic at hand.
By the way, I think they changed that, the germane part. I don't know if it's always been like that, but I mentioned that to somebody else, and they said, oh, yeah, that's actually new. You should just be able to go in there and talk about whatever.
And have a chance to have their voices heard. So I just want to, again, encourage you and the board to reconsider that. I think our staff would be happy to send you over our ground rules and how that discussion needs to be formatted. But I'd really like to see people be able to show up to the meetings in person and be able to bring up some of the issues, concerns that are germane to the topic that you're discussing. So I just hope that you take that back should you be confirmed. The second thing is I would just like to understand better, if I walked in today, what would be the process of signing up to be a volunteer?
It's mostly done online, so it's an online application that is completed. And then at this moment, we do not have a volunteer coordinator, so Kelly LaRoche is kind of handling those. But it's an online process, and then from that point, there's orientations, there's coming in-person orientation, training, and just kind of learning whatever that role or position is that an individual signed up for, and committing to their hours and just learning about the organization.
Sure. Well, I'm glad I was going to bring up the idea of volunteer orientation. If there isn't one, and maybe we can evaluate how that orientation is. I think that what I've heard tonight is the idea that criticisms from those who don't know. And I think it's perhaps true that there are folks who maybe don't know the nuances of HR policies or the nuances of just the standards and protocols, in this case in your agency. But I think sometimes the way that this has been characterized this evening as criticisms and being painfully aware, I think that it kind of projects out that they're just criticisms, it's just misinformation, and it feels like maybe the cares and concerns that have been shared aren't being taken seriously. I'm not suggesting that that's the case, but I think that sometimes the way that things have been worded this evening just maybe have sounded a little bit, uninterested at hearing from folks.
Again? Really? Again?
And that's not a criticism. It's just sometimes you don't know until somebody says maybe there's a better way of talking, the perception doesn't match the reality. I would just encourage to think about ways, because hearing from all your folks, obviously they are very passionate about what they do under your leadership. Obviously, Mr. Bowling wouldn't have been with us 18 years on a sinking ship if he didn't care very much about the animal welfare cause. And so we appreciate all of those who have been on the team for a long time, or people have been on the team, just a little bit of a while. I just think we need to be more conscientious of how we word misinformation or disinformation, because I think sometimes that causes a divide or tension that you could cut. in this room as an example, and we really need to find ways to plug in those who are willing to volunteer until we're able to better recruit and retain new folks with animal care services. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Councillor Boots.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Diamond, for your testimony this evening. Just a couple comments and observations. I've heard a couple times said here that you and Mr. Bowling have only been in this job for a few months at your current positions. There was no training. You were just stepped into a sinking ship, as we've heard. Our jobs are not to micromanage your jobs. That's not our role. But from what we're hearing, you have a major issue, and your volunteer corps is one of the strongest ones that I've seen in my 5 years of any agency, and I implore you to find a way to work with them and bring them back on at full speed.
Oh, my God.
Because as Councilor Hart pointed out, we will never give you what you need. That is not fiscally possible by this council. So you have to make do with what you can get. And when you got volunteers out there that have been around a lot longer than you have at ACS.
Wow.
I think it behooves everybody to pay attention and listen more. I understand you mentioned you're going to work on the hours issue for volunteers. I encourage you to do that once the coordinator comes on. And I did have a question. An issue that was brought to my attention by several people was the adoption vetting system and program that you currently use, and that you may have switched from one to another, and it has possibly impeded your ability to identify dangerous adopters of your animals. Can you just comment on that so we can understand that issue better?
Oh my God, it's like the thing that I was talking about last month, huh, boys? When I said, oh, you're going to have more Zech Thomsen issues if the way that she's wanting to do it right now. Do we really want to see more adopted dogs hung up on the front porch and stabbed to death? Because it sounds like Diamond wants to.
Yes, so what you're referencing is after a single traumatic incident a couple years ago, a policy was instituted where a part of the adoption approval process was to do essentially a criminal background check on anyone wanting to adopt using the online MyCase system. That is a system that, while it will show any animal-related offenses that have occurred, it shows a lot of other information about an individual that is not relevant, and that we saw and we witnessed encouraging bias in those adoption processes. Whether a person is going through a divorce should not affect whether they are a good pet owner at this time in their life. We heard and we saw that happen.
Did you, though?
It's not a practice that is instituted and is common around the country in shelters to do such a check. What is common is to review your actual systems, and in our situation, we are fortunate to also be the animal control facility, so we do have access to those animal-related offenses in our system that occur in Marion County. No, it does not reflect.
Well, I don't know. You know, this is very interesting that you mentioned that, because here, this is in 2022, right? Yeah. Okay. So the year before, just over a year before that for Zech Thomsen, here, I'll just show it to you. Show it to you, boys and girls. Zech Thomsen, what did he get charged for? Criminal confinement, strangulation, domestic battery, resisting law enforcement, twice, by the way. I might add, what did Ryan Mears give him a fucking probation? All of them dismissed. Exactly what happened, actually. Oh, my God. Hey, you know what? You guys voted for this. All you dipshit Democrats, you fucking voted for this shit. You're welcome.
Anything outside of Marion County, but it does within Marion County. And so it has not impeded our ability. We have not seen any uptick or any other recent serious cases that were to the degree of why that policy was instituted. We have switch to what is also, a very
Information.
popular way to do adoptions, and that is actually just listen to people and talk to people and check our system and try to figure out if this is a good match, rely on what we do have in our system, and make those decisions that way.
Is there a possibility of coordinating with surrounding counties? I mean, it sounds a little short-sighted to look only at Marion County when we got 91 other counties that could have very relevant information.
I am not familiar with how we would do that. I would imagine they might have other systems like that, but that still introduces one thing that we're trying to avoid is that, discrimination. That is, and it becomes difficult. I mean, it's natural for us when, anyway, and then when we are so passionate about the animals, it just becomes what we saw just getting out of control, wanting to deny someone, and we were told this because, they didn't have a car, things like that. We're already dealing with those type of bias, and then...
Though, do you know how many homeless people I see that have a dog that they probably got it from from a IACS or wherever? What do you think they're using that dog for? They're using it to tug on people's heartstrings. This is weaponized empathy because you got a bunch of psychopath crackheads that just want their next fix, and they don't care if they have to sell the dog for that.
Watching
or eat it.
The investigation of what's on my case, and then unfortunately it spilled into Googling and Facebooking people and just finding any reason just to deny, and essentially leading to euthanizing more animals because we're not giving them any type of chance. Even when my case has a disclaimer that says that it is not necessarily totally accurate or even current, and to be careful in the use of it. So.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other council questions? Okay. Before our clerk reads off and we start public comment, I do want to warn you, because I know.
All right, so we're not gonna go through all that bullshit, but I will show you one of them. All right, here's that one crazy-eyed chick that I talked about either. But let me.
Last year, we've lost 6
hold on.
coordinators.
This up, biggity bam, biggity bam.
Over the last year, we've lost 6 coordinators: an adoptions rescue, our community cat coordinator, 2 foster coordinators, and myself. All are gone in part due to Kelly Diamond's poor management and leadership and how she treated them. Last year, we lost 3 of our 6 full-time staff and medical, including our vet. A medical member I talked to said they left in part because of the changes she was making, unrealistic expectations, and also frustrations over not being heard.
So there was that one. That was probably the most important one because she actually gave numbers of how many people have left. Whether they're true or not, I have no idea. But we're not going to watch the rest of it. Actually, you know what? We will watch the end of it, though, because Michael Paul Hart does ask a decent question at the end.
No, there's a lot up.
Like right towards the end.
Council.
Previous speaker just said
here we go.
They're threatening and terrifying neighbors. So keeping animals out of the but we
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all those attended. Councilors, do we have any other follow-up questions? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Councilor Brown, that's me. Councilor Hart, sorry. Long night, guys, 3 hours, long time.
If the chairwoman would hear it, I'm curious to know if the director has anything to say about any of those comments.
Director, if you would like.
It's a good question, by the way.
I think it's been a lot. And again, a lot of inaccuracies and a lot of accusations, character assassinations. It's a lot right now for me to be able to comment on. Sorry.
Oh, no shit. J.D. Ford works at the Indianapolis Zoo. That's hilarious.
Thank you. Anyone else from the council? Councilor Boots?
Don't freeze on me.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. Just as a closing comment, if there are any volunteers out there and you are not rehired or you are fired as a result of what you've done recently, please let us know.
Wow. Look at Nick Roberts. He's about ready to shit his pants right now. He's like, Mommy, help me. I'm getting scared right now.
Understand. Thank you.
Look at him. He's shaking. He's literally shaking. And Allie Brown is so over it.
Thank you so much for everyone for attending. Seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned.
You notice that the only Democrat that spoke, I think Vop might have spoke, but the only Democrat that spoke was Dan Boots, and he's not even part of the committee. He's there because of people that were worried, though. That's just unbelievable. The Republicans voted. I thought Vop spoke, but I don't know. But nobody else spoke. Like, this is kind of a big issue. IACS is getting their own building. They're about to appoint their director for that new building, the whole new organization, the redo, basically. And Democrats are just like, whatever. I mean, but also, like, the Republicans have a lot of low-hanging fruit right now. They have this whole issue from this administration. They have that whole deputy mayor situation, which kind of explains why people have been quitting, too. And, you know, we're going to go through, if you're watching this right now, Friday at, 8:41 p.m., tomorrow night, and just under 24 hours at 8:30 p.m., on Saturday night, we're going to be going through some of the ethic disclosures. We're going to talk about that, too, about that one deputy mayor who still has not been appointed yet. We're going to talk more about that. So, if you don't catch me tomorrow night, till next time.